My name is Charlie Law, and this is my Learning Design Technology e-portfolio. This is the video tour of my portfolio. You can see here is the home page with some information about me, some personal information about my career in the Air Force, then my career as a professor, and some of the work I've done as a consultant. After that, I include some skills and ability. Some of these I had prior to the program, and some of them I have gained, like Adobe Captivate, Creative Cloud, Canva, and so on, in this master program. A little bit of personal information, another picture, and then my education. Down here I have my curriculum vitae and my resume. So if you click on each, it will open up another window. And just go ahead and close that. And here you can see my resume, which is much shorter and more geared towards jobs outside of academia. All right, so that's the first page. Next, I'm going to show you the AECT standard page. Next, I'll go over the AECT standard page. So if I click here, it will take me to this page where it describes each standard, and it does scroll through each one, or I can click on the arrow here to go to the next one. Let's see. So let's go to the first one, and you can see at the bottom of each one of these, I can click on the button to find the indicators. So if I click on Standard 1 Indicators, it will take me to this page. And from this page, it describes each one of the indicators. And at the bottom, I could either click back to standards, or I could view artifacts. And we'll go over the artifacts in a little bit, but just to show you that the buttons work, here it takes me to Standard 1 artifacts. So we'll go back to AECT standards. So that's Standard 1. If I go to Standard 2 indicators, it opens a page. All the pages are pretty much identical. You can view the articles to make sure this works, and it does go to Standard 2 artifacts. Go back here. I can also just go to any one of these, but I'm demonstrating how the website works, or how the ePortfolio works. So here's Standard 3 with the Standard 3 indicators, and I can view the artifacts directly from this page. Going back to the standards. This time I'll go backwards since it's a little bit quicker. Here's Standard 4 with the Indicators button and the View Artifacts button. And there's the artifacts. And then finally, you can go to Standard number 5. Click on the Standards button. There are all the standards, and then I can view the artifacts from there. So that's it for the AECT standards button. And next up, we'll talk about the individual artifacts. The next thing I'd like to cover are the artifacts themselves. So I'm going to click on the artifact page. And it's going to look very similar to the AECT standard page, except now it's going to say standard artifacts at the bottom. So we'll go through each one of the standards and look at the artifacts. And again, all of these pages are consistent. They all look the same. And hopefully they're very easy to read and navigate. All right, so for Standard 1, the first artifact I have is a video production plan, and that's from Interactive Media. You can see the competencies down here that are listed and a summary of the artifact. And this is a production plan for an instructional video I was going to make about changing an electrical switch. So to view the artifact, I click here, and it opens this window, and it has the video production plan, planning, conceptualization, pre-production, production, and post-production. and it has the script that I used, list of equipment and props, the talent, the shooting schedule, and so on. I'm going to close that. And you can see that some of these competencies assess relevant characteristics of the target audience and the setting, and select instructional media. And I did all of these in that plan. The second artifact. This is from Current Trends in Instructional Technology, which I took in my first semester of the program, and it is an educational game evaluation. So for this, I evaluated 2 games. One is Dynamite Appetite, and the second was Prodigy Online Math Game. So when I click here, I have my first evaluation, and this is evaluating the Dynamite video with some screenshots. And answering all the items for the assignment. And then I have my Prodigy Online Math Game as well. And again, you can see that in order, or part of that evaluation was considering the target characteristics of the audience, and also how the setting would be important for that, or for those games. The third artifact for Standard 1 is for managing, and this was for a technology project management class, and it's the final project. So it was a very big project, and you can see it addresses a lot of the competencies, and that's not surprising because this was a semester-long project where everything built on previous work. So I have 2 artifacts for this. The first one is going to be the the final paper, and you can see it's written in APA format. It has flowcharts, diagrams, project goals. So this is the entire project management life cycle, basically from start to finish, is in this paper. Let's see if I can just scroll down. It has budget, it talks about target characteristics, and so on. So it's a very long paper, just over 30 pages. So that's the first artifact. The second artifact that I wanted to include is a Canva tutorial. So you can see I put this together, and it highlights what I did through the semester and the different technology platforms that I used, and it's really kind of fun. So you can see I use in this video, I use some iMovie, and I use Canva, and it goes through, I use some screen capture there with Screencast-O-Matic and so on. So this shows that project. So that's it for Standard 1. Next up we'll talk about Standard 2. We're starting off here in Standard 2. I'll go over the artifacts I chose for this standard. So the first one I chose was for using Standard 2.2 from my distance learning class, which I took in the summer of 2021. That was one of 2 classes I took that summer. And this is a top 5 principles of online training job aid. This was a assignment that was early in the semester, and it was my first attempt at creating a job aid. So if you look at the artifact, you can see I did this in PowerPoint, and this is just converted to a PDF. And it has all 5 of those principles that I chose to highlight that I thought were important. So again, the competencies here: assessing the relevant characteristics of the target, selecting the instructional media, and developing training program materials were all competencies that I thought were met with this artifact. Standard 2.3 for assessing. This was for my interactive media course, which I took in the spring of 2021, and I chose to use the usability testing report here, and I have two different artifacts that I uploaded. The first is the actual questionnaire, or the instrument I use to collect data, and this is just for one person. The actual questionnaire was much longer because I had several people who did this, but I thought that one person would be enough. And then artifact 2 is the actual report, and I did this for Duolingo. And you can see it has the introduction, the methodology, which describes what I did, of course the participants, describing the participants, their demographic characteristics, the tasks that they engaged in, and then the results. And you can see I have several tables here showing the results, and then the satisfaction items down here, and the user experience. So those two artifacts I thought were strong for showing these competencies because it did assess the characteristics of the target audience and the setting. It was a job task or content analysis, and I did develop a performance measurement instrument for this assignment, so I thought those competencies were definitely met. All right, next up is standard 2.4 for managing. This was for distance learning, which I took again in the summer of 2021, and this was the final project. And I have two artifacts for this as well. The reflection paper is artifact 1, and then the second artifact is the final presentation video. So if you click on artifact 1, it is a PDF paper of again, it's a reflection paper on my experience from the entire course and what I learned and what I think I would do differently. And then artifact 2 is a video. I don't know why it's starting in the middle. And you can see I created this video again using iMovie and Screencast-O-Matic to get the PowerPoint presentation under the video. And it's quite a long video. I'm not going to go through it, of course, but it covers the entire course. All right. So that's my third artifact, and next up we'll cover the artifacts for standard number 3. So here we have standard 3 artifacts, and this is actually my second time recording this because the first time Screencast-O-Matic locked up and I lost everything. So I have some practice and this should run a little bit smoother. Alright, so for the first artifact I chose standard 3.1 creating, and this is a problems in instructional design for computers course, and I chose the final project for this class. And I took this class in the fall of 2021. I worked with one other student, and together we created a mini course for middle school teachers. There are two artifacts that I want to show you and that I've included here. The first one is the final presentation, and then the second one is a link to the course itself. So if we look at artifact 1, this is just a PowerPoint presentation. It shows actually a very short presentation compared to some of the other artifacts that I've included, but I saved this as a PDF so it's nice and easy to open and view. And then artifact 2 opens to the actual course. If you open this yourself, you'll have to enroll in the course. I did not have to do that because I'm already enrolled. But here you can see the title of the course, Providing Quality Instruction for Middle School Virtual Learners. You can see the learning objectives that we developed. Some of the buttons, I don't know why that one's off, but if you click on one of the buttons, it will take you to that module. And each module had 4 lessons. So we'll just click lesson 3 for module 1, and you can see this is a screen capture video.
Welcome to providing quality
showing students how to
instruction
hold a Zoom meeting. So if we go back, you can also see the modules laid out here sequentially. And if you click on any of these, you can also see the content that we created. Go back. And one thing to note is that we do have quizzes for each module. So if you click on the quiz, you can take the quiz. This one has 4 questions. And then we also have activities. And you can see each module had an activity, and the activity required the students to put content on a Padlet related to that particular module. So that's the course that we developed. And we'll go back here. And we used several different tools for this. We use Canvas, of course, to host it as a learning management system. We use Powtoon, we use iMovie, Screencast-O-Matic, Padlet you saw, Canva was another tool that we used. And going through that course, you can hopefully see all these competencies that I think applied to this. Assessing the characteristic of the target audience, which was middle school teachers, the setting, which was the website. We selected various media, created performance measurement instruments, the quizzes, and so on. Standard 3.2 for using, and I chose game analytics for learning. This is I'm actually doing a dual concentration. This is my second concentration. And the artifact I'm using is Skill Chain for free education. This is an assignment where we were asked to imagine an educational game. And the game, the synopsis was that a student or a person would sit in a class without paying tuition and learn for free. And so what I needed to do was create a skill chain for that. And I wanted to use Adobe for this because I'm also using Adobe in another class and I'm trying to learn some of the skills and I thought this would be a good way to practice. So I used Adobe Audition, I use Character Animator, and I use Captivate for this. So if you look at this, and you probably won't be able to hear it, but if you go onto the actual portfolio, you can see
skill chain.
I created a puppet,
complex.
and I did that with Character
So
Animator.
I decided to focus on
and
staying
that
anonymous
puppet
on the first day of
has
class.
mouth movements that mimic my
The
own,
first thing the player
and arm
does is
movements
enter the
that
classroom.
mimic my own
When
as
they
well.
enter the classroom, they watch what
And
other
this
students do.
is done, of course, on
Some
Adobe
students sit in the front
Captivate.
and some sit in the back. The player observes the students who sit.
So I thought that was actually really a neat skill to learn, and so I wanted to do that for that particular project. All right, and then my third artifact is for managing, Standard 3.4, and I chose web design for this. And the artifact is the information architecture assignment. And for this, we evaluated a website, and the website was sanjuanvet.com, veterinarian office. And here is the website analysis form, identifying what was on the website, creating 2 audience personas, and then analyzing what I thought about the website myself. So going back, you can see analyzing or assessing the relevant characteristics of the target audience, that's the audience personas, the setting, the website itself, and then the content analysis for the website. Here you can see Standard 4, the artifacts that I have chosen for this particular standard. The first one is Collaborative Practice, Standard 4.1, and I chose Game Design and Development for Learning for the course, and the final project, which was an educational game. And again, this was part of my dual concentration with game analytics. And the artifact itself was a game that I created with 3 other team members. And part of the collaborative process, which I thought was particularly valuable, was collaborating with group members that were geographically separated pretty substantially. One of our group members was in Dubai and 8 hours ahead of us. So it was a little bit of a challenge, but we learned how to work together as a group very effectively. So we created a game, and we used GitHub and Construct3 for this. And the game is for elementary school students, and is basically an adding game. So here you can see this student's at the cash register, wants to buy a Sprite and Takis. And so a Sprite is $4 and a Taki is $5. So the learner would put 9 there, and then they would click pay. And good job comes up. And then next, oops, there it is, next. And if they get it wrong, we'll just put 25 and pay, and say try again. So that's the game that we created. And so a lot of these competencies, you can see plan and monitor training projects, assess development characteristics of the target audience. Again, that was elementary school, probably first or second grade students. The setting, the game, and the instructional media, again, was the game itself. Standard 4.4, I chose, for assessing, I chose interactive media, the course, and the artifact is the linear training course that I developed. And I developed this using Adobe Captivate, and this was my first exposure to Adobe Captivate. And I have actually 3 artifacts here. The first artifact is the proposal. And you can see I look at the target audience, the learner's need, the environment, the setting, some of the resources and limitations, the site itself. And so that is the proposal. Artifact 2, this is the storyboard, and you can see it goes through and it's quite extensive. Everything that I have here. This was my first attempt at the storyboard too, so subsequent attempts I did a better job, and that's one of the things that I've learned, and this is in my reflection as well, is that as I've gone through different courses and had to learn repeat skills, that I've done a better job as I've gone through. And then I also include this bonus artifact because it shows the actual completed course.
Hello.
And here
My
you
name is
can
Dr.
see
Charlie Law. Today I'm going to show you how to do an
the
end-to-end
course. It goes through. I've next created my own buttons, pre-test, and then it goes through the actual content of the course. And then there's videos. Oh, I skipped through that pretty quick. There's a video of the screen capture, again using
Here
screen
you can
capture.
see your SPSS spreadsheet. You can
And
see
so
variable 1 and variable 2 at the top.
The last part of the last artifact there. And all these competencies, I think, are displayed pretty prominently in that. Planning, training projects with the proposal, the target characteristics, that's also part of the proposal, and the setting. The performance-based objectives, those are the quiz questions within the training itself, the instructional media, using the screencast, Amatic, and so on. And the final artifact I chose for the standard was ethics. And this is a course I'm enrolled in currently. It's independent study in instructional technology, and this is replacing a research methods course. And so the artifact is module 2.1 video, and I chose this because it has no narration. It's made for people who may be hearing impaired, and I use Adobe for this as well. And you can see it's a video I made, and the video shows step by step exactly what the learner needs to do. So type in the name of your second variable, click the next. So somebody who's hearing impaired can view this video and know exactly what they need to do to complete the task. So I use that for an ethics artifact. Here you can see standard 5, the last standard I'm going to talk about, and the artifacts that I chose. First of all, I chose standard 5.1, theoretical foundation. And for this, I used current trends in instructional technology, the final presentation. And this presentation was about using virtual reality, and I wanted to apply virtual reality online training in the United States military. So the first artifact is my paper, and you can see this follows the APA guidelines for a research paper, and therefore fits the requirement for that particular standard. The second artifact is the presentation I created, and here it's you can see I used
Today I'll be telling
Prezi for this, and again I won't go through the entire presentation, it's 18 minutes long, but I talk about all of those various topics here, the learning theories, what virtual reality is, and so on. So that is my first artifact, and it completes these competencies: the needs assessment, characteristics of the target audience, and the setting. And I do recommend instructional strategies based on my research, and I evaluate the instruction program and process. For the second competency, I chose Standard 5.2, which is method, and this is from Motivational Design. And for this, I created a proposal for a motivational intervention for a real-life issue. So I chose something I've been working on, which is a course for the New Jersey Continuing Legal Education, and it's on implicit bias. So you look at the artifact. Here you can see the research paper that I created, or that I wrote. And it covers the ARCS model very thoroughly. And it includes assessing the current state and making recommendations for the future. So it is a needs assessment, the current state. I did have to know about the characteristics of the audience and the setting, the performance-based objectives, and then I think importantly was the selecting the media, recommending instructional strategies. So the final artifact I'm going to talk about is from Standard 5.3, assessing. And again, this is for Game Analytics for Learning, which is a course I'm taking right now. And this is an assessment for Bounce Maze, which is a game that we collectively played as a group, and then had to analyze data from other people playing. So I have two artifacts here. The first is a spreadsheet that I created, and this was created using Microsoft Excel, and you can see all the data here laid out, and this is after actually several hours of compiling and cleaning the data. Came with this Excel spreadsheet. And then the more important part, the second artifact, and this is the actual paper I wrote, the evaluation. You can see this has some figures, some screenshots, some screen capture. It talks about when the data was collected, and then I used SPSS to create some bar charts to show the data and to better be able to describe the data for this report. Right, so that does it for the artifacts. The last thing that we'll talk about is my personal reflection. So the last thing I will show you, or last two things, my personal reflection, where I talk about what I feel I've learned through this program and why that's important, as well as things I might do a little bit differently. And I will let you read that yourself. And then finally, my contact information for anybody who wants to contact me. And I don't remember my P.O. box number, so I will put that in before this is finally published. And there will be, I guess I'll show this, the video tour will appear right here when this is done. And then the last thing I want to say is that as I'm putting this together, I'm using Screencast-O-Matic to record the screen. and I will be using iMovie to combine all of these segments into one more cohesive video, and then using Adobe Premiere to put the final touches on this video tour. I hope you've enjoyed it.